Welcome to my satisfactory world, and in this video I'm going to show you how a lazy engineer plays satisfactory. Usually I record my gameplay, but because the satisfactory gameplay is not all that interesting and kind of repetitive, I, as you will see in the previous videos, just recorded some of the highlights, which is still interesting to see the factory grow from the start. But skips all the grindy, repeaty stuff that you have to do. So in this video I will be explaining my thought process while making my factory, and explaining how I did it and what rules I broke to achieve it. The factory is not entirely clip free. Most of it is. I tried to build most of the stuff without clipping, but I've made one big sacrifice, which I will explain later. And I'll also explain why I chose this particular design for my factory and why I thought it would be easy to build like this. At this point in time I've pretty much unlocked all the things that can be unlocked, at least here in the research tree. Everything's unlocked, and the only thing that I do not have unlocked are some research things down here, which I did not need yet. So some of these are still ongoing. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Alright, so let's start with the factory. My goal was to make a factory which was scalable based on demand. So having a look, for example, here at, well, we're producing rotors, and I just wanted to be able to produce more rotors easily if I notice somewhere upstream that there's a shortage of rotors. That's basically all I wanted to do. Like, they call this lean, like lean manufacturing. It's not you don't push stuff, but you pull stuff. So you need rotors, you're gonna build more rotors. So not in advance building like 32 rotors per minute, but just starting with four one of these assemblers. And if you need more, just building more. And so most of my late game, of course I did not start out like this, but most of my late games blueprints have been modular. So I'll show one here in the blueprint builder to illustrate what I'm talking about. Let's see here. Let's start with the assembler, for example. Alright, so here we can see the assembler, and oh, that's something I've glossed over, but I have a main floor, and then for everything there is a logistics floor, which is underneath here. And if we will have a look at my logistics floor, you'll see, for example over here, that most of the logistics are pretty neatly and do not clip. It has not always been that way, and there have been points where it was really messy down here, and at one point I decided to clean it up, get my act together, and also wanted, like, this is acceptable to me, but no like conveyor belts clipping through each other, stuff like that. Well, I mean, maybe sometimes, but we'll get to that, okay? But the blueprints in between, there's not much clipping, it's quite neat. And so yeah, if you place a few next to each other, you just connect all of these up and select the recipe you want, and then you just have to input the items that are required and output the items that are produced, and that's it. And all of these items from my entire factory end up on this bus system. And this bus system goes around my base. You can see it all the way in the back there, and it makes a very big square. And the purpose of that is that I'm no longer space limited, because sometimes in this game you build something and you realize you need more of it. Just like I said, you want to scale up, and then you have no more space and you get kind of stuck. And that's also what I wanted to solve using this bus system. And as you can see, not all of them have been used. because I finished the game and I still have some space left. But I'll also show how I made this. So this is like a blueprint as well, with I think these. So you just place these down and then place them at a distance from each other, and then it's just a case of connecting everything together just like this, making sure that the right connection goes to the right one. And then of course this one is one part, but in here there's 9 parts of these, so it's actually a 12 by 12 bus which I've made. Let's delete these. And as you can see, my game gets quite laggy when removing or placing conveyor belts, and that is just because of this bus. It goes around all the map, and every time you place a conveyor it recalculates. I think that's my assumption, that what it does, it recalculates the entire system again, and that's why it has these lag spikes, I think, when doing something with conveyor belts, at least attaching them to the bus. And that's also the reason why I've not gone ahead, even though I'm in the late game, gone ahead and replaced these with Mark 6 belts, because as you can see, it brings my game to its knees. It's really bad. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about how I'm using the bus, because you heard me about clipping, and well, the bus is pretty much the only place where there's lots of clipping, and I accept that it's there. I guess this bus that I've built is just the first iteration of me trying to build something like this, and this is, well, because of how compact it is, there's not really a way to get items out from the middle without clipping, and I've basically just accepted that that is the case. So I'll clip them into the bus and out of the bus, and after that it's just as little clipping as possible. So here you can see it in action. So the top line is coming back with the produced items, and then the bottom lines left and right are the inputs. Then of course there are, before they go into the bus, sometimes places where I put them into my dimensional depot. These I've just added along later, and as you will see later on, this can also be a little bit neater, especially if you go into the higher layers. Then I've used conveyor lifts and it gets a little bit nicer. I'll show you up here. And so here's basically my entire assembly park, assembler park, where all the items that can be made with assemblers are made. So yeah, later on I've used these elevators, and it becomes pretty neat to get them in and out of there. Yeah, this is also some clipping still, where I'm feeding my coal to make diamonds. Boy, do diamonds cost a lot, so I've used like a couple of nodes over there in the red forest. And then over here is the same stuff, but then with blenders and manufacturers. And of course there you have to get 5 connections to the main bus, 4 for the inputs and 1 for the output. But the goal is still the same. I have 2 layered here, 2 layered lines of splitters with elevators going in, and then 1 line of output going back to the bus. Yeah, this is the most messy part, I think. Later on I get this a little bit more down to a neat level, because these are like the early on manufacturers that produce stuff like supercomputers, and then later on I think they're over here or maybe even further back. Yes, these produce high-speed connectors, I think. Yeah, kind of. I'll show them over here, the connections that I've made, because they're a little bit nicer. So as you can see here, I've gotten it pretty nice. This just gets better and better. Yeah, and these are like the late game manufacturing items, particle accelerators, stuff like that. Yeah, so this is what it could look like if you do it all consistently pretty nice. Then you get stuff like this, and of course you stop them at the right height to input them into here. which is all pretty nice. I think these look pretty good. And so then the only clipping that you have is right here, which you don't see this. If you just fly by, you don't really see it that much. So you'd have to be like, you have to be annoyed that it's there, because you know that it's there, but you don't really see it often. Then this is just a part where I make some more plastic and rubber. This has also been built in the time where I had the blueprints already nicely set up, so this is all without clipping. So here it's a very long connected belt, and yeah, as you can see, I'm not using up all of them, so it's kind of being delayed. And here there's some fluid buffers just to make sure it always has fluid to filter out the peaks. So yeah, and the lazy part is just I don't have to think about where I'm gonna build stuff. So here you can see some new manufacturing which I made for copper. I needed more copper powder, and I decided to bring in the nodes that are here on the map. So if we go down, I think we can see that I actually don't know where they're coming in from. I think they're from below somewhere here. Yeah, so there's some copper coming in, and I decided I wanted to manufacture that right here and just put it onto the belt system and forget about it. So here you can see it coming in. It gets split into these two arrays of smelters, and any overflow from this one, it's a smart one, so any overflow from here goes into there. And this one is already kind of backing up, so that's also overflowing. And then here we have two lines coming out from these two splitters, and then I use a 2-to-2 load balancer and some speedy boys to make sure that we have always output going into these. And then in case that these are full, I again have some smart splitters which are set to overflow, and we overflow that into producing, I think, yeah, rolled copper, because we needed more of that. And here you can see one of the issues that you can run into this system. So basically you have a cross section of this entire thing, and if you put the wrong item onto the wrong belt, you're gonna have issues, because then wherever you output that item, or yeah, you want to get that from the belt, you're gonna get trash in there which your machines cannot use. So this, for example, if this does not get copper, it will get clogged and this whole system will shut down. And here's a case where I did not set them up correctly, and later on I had to filter out all the copper from the bus which was used for copper sheets. And that's an important lesson I've learned from this system, is to use smart splitters for the output of the bus, and that's for two reasons. First reason is of course the filtering, because here you can set the filter to left output the item that you want, and through the center anything undefined. If there were to be an issue, eventually you would still clog up the system, but you could also put the item that you want in the center and then have a right output for like anything undefined, so you could filter it out. If you want to, I would make a dedicated filtering system. For example, in this area where every item that's coming through is filtered and the rest is put into a sink, so that you know that everything leaving this place is the pure item that you want. But that's just if you are a messy player and you sometimes forget stuff. I mean, it's gonna happen. I thought it was not gonna happen to me, but you make one mistake and then you have to check every place in the game that uses copper sheet, for example. You have to reset everything because there could be still one item wrong there. Another reason to use these splitters is that if you are going to use the item at this place and you use a normal splitter, it will get split 50-50. But if you use a splitter and set it to overflow only, so like here you set it to overflow, what that's going to do is it's going to send first all the items towards the machines that you're using them for, and then if there's any overflow, it will get sent through the loop again. Otherwise it will take another entire loop for the other half of the items to come back to your splitter and possibly get selected again. I've not done that consistently everywhere, but later on I've learned that that is the best way to do it, and also the best way to prevent any unwanted items from getting to your machines, because it's a lot easier to filter the entire bus than it is to reset all the machines that have wrong items in them. So yeah, definitely if you're going to use this, only get items from the bus with a smart splitter set to select that particular item. And also, looking at my base, I realized that I've made this bus way too big. Because if you use the space efficiently and you go to the outside of the bus, I think you could do with maybe, yeah, I'm not sure, like maybe a quarter of the size that I have would be sufficient if you divide it smartly to have at least all the items that you need for phase 5 of the elevator. So yeah, here you can see this is not how I would set it up. I would set up these perpendicular to the bus, so they use the least amount of contact space with the bus. And in that way you could keep the bus as small as possible and also make it easier to upgrade later on, because it would be a lot of work to upgrade the entire bus to tier 6 conveyor belts. And that's also the reason why I'm probably not going to do it. So yeah, that's about the bus, I think. And about the size, I think, yeah, size is a bit difficult. I think this is too large. As you can see, the top 3 layers are completely unused. So that's basically, it's a 12 by 12 bus, right? So it's 144 minus 36, so I'd say around 100 items. But of course, if you want some overhead for Christmas items, or I've also not yet automated all the player consumables like the explosive nobelisks and stuff. I think this is a good size bus, and especially if you're going to put ores on here, which I've not done. So I only put, in some cases, ingots on there, because I need them later on for fixite. But I think if you're going to put ores on there, you're probably going to need a bigger bus than this. And well, for the large quantity items like screws, I've already defined 2 lanes. So keep in mind that items like that, which you use in high quantities, may require more than 1 lane, especially if you don't put them into Mark 6 buses. Alright, so that's about that. And yeah, the rest I just use to scale it up. So let's see, for example, what I do is I'd have a problem with, of course, heavy modular frames like everybody does. And I'd go check here on these manufacturers which item is low, and in this case, well, it's the modular frames themselves. So I'd fly over to the assembler, have a look at that, so see why it's low, and try to fix that so-called bottleneck. This way makes it pretty easy to go down a bottleneck and fix that. So here we have to check for the modular frame, which is over here. And then we just have to see, okay, well, are all of these working? Well, in that case we need more, right? So we need more modular frames. Or maybe the last one is not working, and in that case we need more components to make modular frames, like iron rods or reinforced iron plates. So that way you can just follow down a bottleneck from the source to the constituents that are in there pretty easily, without having to do all the math, like, okay, so I need this much modular frames, and then you multiply by this. So it makes it easy to just visually fly around and just increase stuff. And okay, then you have a shortage of iron, so you get some more iron into ingots and feed that into you know, stuff like that. So that's basically how I wanted to play, and that's how I set up my factory to be able to play like that. Okay, now into power. So basically I started off with coal power like everybody does, and then I switched, well, you can't see it, but the coal hole will get there. That's where, you know what, I'll travel to there right now, and then I get to talk about my travel system. because that's one thing that I spent a lot of time on building. I made some cool blueprints for a power tower to put like a power ring around the entire map, and then I spent some more time to make a custom hypertube loop with exits that you can use. I've made them using the power switch from a nice video. I forgot the guy, but he has a really nice dedicated video to how you can make these. And by switching the power, some things get turned on and you get sucked out at the exit where you want to leave. So right now I switch the power to the coal power plant, and we're just gonna go in and get launched to the power plant. This will take like roughly 20 seconds to arrive because it's very fast. And here we're coming up at the exit. There you can see it in the back, well, for a very short second. And yep, we have arrived. This is the coal power plant, which used to power me up until like, I don't know, you can calculate it, but I think like 15 megawatts of power. And it used to be pure coal, but now it's compacted coal, I think, that we're using. This is around this stage in the game I've decided to switch up. So here you can see I'm already kind of using the modular system, but I'm still having them above ground, and also they're still going through each other. So I already had a nice blueprint, but I did not figure it out completely yet. And of course here I'm looping everything through here, and then all of these are running at 100% efficiency. And below we have all the stuff to connect them to water supplies, which for coal power, figuring out the water is the biggest issue. As you can see here, we have lots of water coming in, and then there I was struggling with how to place pumps nicely. So as you can see here, this is my old factory, which is currently shut down and no longer in use, but I still did not dismantle it yet. And then here you can see the pumps, which all work together to create one pipe full of water. These are all not over clocked, so that's why you have 5 per pipe. And eventually I'm running out of space, but I really like this, that I was able to put them onto the grid on the same spot. And I think the way to do this is to have these foundations here already, and also have these connections here already, and that allows you to place down a water extractor like this in line with the pump. And once you have the first one, you can of course connect them to each other, and that will work fine. Ah, crap. So yeah, that was like mid-game power. And I have one battery tower here, which I sometimes give another layer. Maybe I'll do one right now. Battery. Which is very useful if ever something goes wrong with my system, so that I can rely on this backup power to get everything powered again. Because otherwise you have to build power stations to boot up your main power station, and I really don't want that. So alright, let's delete the supports so that it looks like a tower. And then it's just a matter of connecting one of the sides. I run the connection over here. And then as you can see, we're adding some percentage to our battery. Alright, so that's that. I realize now that I've made this in the wrong direction, but I don't care too much. So there you can see the main base. We're not that far out, but I still use this system to get everywhere. Okay, so now we're going to travel back. And I'm going to talk a bit about the issues that I'm having with this system. I'll also, choose one to get out from in the meantime. So the big issues with these intersections is that there's what I've not achieved yet is the perfect balance between reliable output and reliable throughput speed. So I really want to travel quickly across the map, but also I want to select which exit I'm going to use. And if you travel too quickly, you will sometimes shoot by the exit, and if you make the exit 100% reliable, it sometimes kills your speed, so it resets your hypertube speed. And maybe we'll see that in one of these. So here it worked perfectly, it speed me up even a little bit. But yeah, sometimes you will just fly past at this speed and not get the exit that you want. So it's not 100% perfect, and I think if I would do this over, I would build a railroad around the entire map. Just because I think that would be a little bit more reliable to create exits if you want to get off, and also to make planning to go to different stations. So it should spit me out right here, and that works so far. Of course it spits out at quite a high speed. And I'll also make the time to show in detail how these intersections work. Alright, so now it's green, which means that this intersection is going to output you and going to remove you from the main loop. And if I put this off, we'll see that it's now no longer green, and these lights are connected to the switch. So right now here you have the two intersections. So the left one is going along the loop, and the right one is going towards the exit. And the idea here is that the right one is slightly closer to the center line of this one, so that if both are powered on, your character is going to automatically go into the right one. And if the right one is not powered on, this one is still close enough to immediately suck you in and pull you through. And that's basically the gist of it. You can see these in the video from the guy who made a video about all these kinds of stuffs. And basically you give this switch a name that makes it recognizable in the tab here, and then you're good to go. So right now I'm going to go here into the accelerator, and we're going to be spit out at our base again. It may take a while to get there, but eventually we should also see some more accelerators which are going to help us. Especially this cliff, which is a really high climb. I had to put more accelerators in between this section, because otherwise it takes really long. Oh, and another thing for power, because I built this, it was pretty easy for me to get across the map. And I decided one time that I wanted to have all the geysers in my power network. So I went around, and as you can see there, for example, I harvested all the geothermal power that is available on the map, which is not that much, but it's nice to have available in case something goes wrong in my base. Makes it easier to boot up the system again if anything would go wrong. So now we're just cruising around at the north side of the map, making our way to the desert and then the swamp, and then back to our base. Yeah, there you can see the reset of speed. I still have not figured it out. I've tried a lot of things, but yeah, I could not figure it out where you would always get reliable switching and then reliable throughput of speed. So yeah, if anybody figures it out, please let me know. I may use it in the next playthrough. And there you can see more of the geothermal harvesting. Of course, all around the map where those are available, I've put some down. And some interesting ideas I have based on this playthrough is that the next one I may try to challenge myself and do a 100% efficiency run. So basically the polar opposite of which I've done right now, so that every machine that I build must run at 100% efficiency. So consuming every item that you produce, or producing exactly enough to produce the item that you want, which I think would be really challenging but also really fun. Well, maybe not really fun for everything, but interesting at least. And here we come to the point where I've also stopped, but I was busy making a train track, which was just some project. I really put off trains in my playthrough here. I basically use conveyor belts for everything, also to put everything into my base. And yeah, I just decided I wasn't going to use trains. And here we are right back at the base. So yeah, I guess that's about it. That is how I, as a lazy engineer, play Satisfactory in my second playthrough. Yeah, what else? Oh yeah, there's still something, yeah, I forgot about it. The turbo power. Also, I don't know what this is, I'm sorry, we don't look at that. But yeah, my main power source right now is that I convert 600 crude oil into as much rocket fuel that is possible to produce with that. And for that I use compacted coal. I think this is the turbo fuel factory, and I think here we're blending it together to get rocket fuel. Yeah, so here we're using nitric acid, and then we're making the rocket fuel, and then over there, that's just where I'm generating the power with that. And that is basically all power that I'm using at the moment. And so far it's been enough, and I've been able to scale most that I wanted to scale in my factory. And of course all of this also has been built without trying to clip things. So with the same concept of like staggered splitters above each other, and then inputting and outputting the items that I need from below. Same with the fluids, which are still kind of messy, but yeah, we figured them out kind of. And then here you can see still a little bit of how I used to build everything. This has not really been optimized because it's quite far away from the main bus, and has a lot of these consumables which I don't really use otherwise. And then slowly we're getting to the structure of the bus again. One thing that I liked to build with, especially for the overflow items here with aluminium production, are these buffer vats. And what this does is it prioritizes the waste. So here there's wastewater coming in from the process upstream, and then any excess is used. And then here we just have a reset of the head lift, so that way anything that's pushing from here will get prioritized over this water. But if there's no water coming from that side, we can still use the water we're pumping up here. And of course then from here we're pumping it up to the machines that we're using it. The only downside with this way that I've put it here is that water coming from here needs to get a little bit of head lift to flow into these machines. Otherwise you could have this on the same level and just connect it and it would be fine. But because of the extra head lifts, we need these two pumps. Yeah, that's basically all there is. So yeah, feel free to leave a comment with your ideas about this base. Do you think I've cheated with the clipping in the main bus, or do you think it's a smart idea, and would you also find this level of clipping to be acceptable? And do you have any other ideas about this base? Did it inspire you? Are you gonna build something like this, or are you gonna build something entirely different? Please let me know. And yeah, I know I enjoyed my time here. It's been like, I think close to, I don't know, maybe 300 hours that I've put into this world. and yeah, it's been nice, and I really like to get going with some other games now. I still have Baldur's Gate 3 to play, and also I've been playing Hell Let Loose, but I've not recorded anything on that game yet. Oh, sometimes you get pushed off. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4, one of my favorite all-time games. Maybe I'm gonna also post some gameplay of that, because I've been able to get into multiplayer matches again. And what else? Yeah, I was kind of toying with the idea to put a Skyrim playthrough here, just because I enjoy Skyrim also a lot, and I come back to it every once and again, so maybe it would be nice to get a Skyrim gameplay on here. Yeah, that's about it, I guess. Yeah. Well, I hope this inspired you in any way, and if it did, please let me know. And otherwise, have a nice, fantastic day. See you later. Bye bye.